Just recording here with John Cuneo on Saturday morning, the 26th of February 2011. Having a little chat about his impending patronage of the Lightweight Sharpie National Association. So John, I just wanted to ask you a couple of little questions about the history. You've given us a bit of a sheet of some of your results of Series 1 and competed in over many years in Sharpies and other classes. Just as a bit of background, with the 12 square metre Sharpie, looks like you started sailing those in around 1949, would that be right?
Yes.
The photos I see of Sharpies, the old Sharpie sailing, they're a three-man crew boat at that time.
Yes.
Yeah, but in the Olympics at 56, they seem to be sailing with two only.
Well, there's quite a difference between the Australian heavyweight Sharpie and the international one. And the international one is two-man and no spinnaker. The deck was the same thickness as the planking on the hull, which is 9/16, I think, from memory. So they are quite different.
All right, but the hull shape would have been the same.
Hull shape exactly the same. Yeah.
Right, and the rig much the same except no spinnaker.
No spinnaker, but there was no diagonal measurement on the mainsail. It's like from the clew up to the gaff jaw. So they were exploiting that to the full extent. And if you look at the photographs, you'll find that the gaff is hanging way back and the boom is more or less in the cockpit. But it gave them a bigger sail area. This is on the international
ones,
and the ones used in the Olympics in 56.
Right.
I think at the time the Australian Sharpie Association tried to influence the international mob to get them to put a spinnaker on, but it didn't happen.
So they wouldn't have had a trapeze either, the international ones?
No.
But the Australian ones adopted them probably in the 50s, early 50s?
Yes. I was always in favour of them, but the South Australians in particular were anti them. They finally woke up that should have, it's like automatic bailers. I was using automatic bailers when I was in the trainee dinghies class before the Sharpies came along, and I thought they were a great idea, better than pumping it all the way around the course. The problem was they would vote against it every time I brought it up. The last time that was voted on, someone said, "Are you going to move the motion?" I said, "Well, what's the point in moving the motion? I've moved it several times before and it's always voted out." So I said, I don't want to do it again. They said, "I think you should." So I did, and it went through like that. So they'd all realised that it was a good idea.
Sharpie class has traditionally been very slow to adopt changes.
Some changes are so obvious that it makes life worthwhile living, like trapezes and automatic bailers.
And larger spinnakers eventually crept into the class. Now the first lightweight championship you competed in was 1961 in Daring 2, would that be right?
Yes, that was in Hobart.
It would have been quite an adventure for your first lightweight championship. Would there have been many boats in that fleet at that time?
There was quite a few. The heavyweights were also racing. They had their own race. Yeah, there was quite a good fleet there. I remember someone timed us from the city buoy rounding over to Bellareve on the other side of the river, and they timed us as averaging 20 knots.
Wow.
On a reach.
Fantastic.
Reach, no spinnakers.
No spinnakers.
They were very much in favour of the lightweights after that. So we actually won that one quite easily. I don't think we went out in the last heat.
Oh, great. With the club here in Queensland, I guess they've started racing here at Royal Queensland. The heavyweights were involved here. Is that where you raced from mostly?
Yes, the Sharpies, they were racing in the squadron. I think it was pre-war. Probably had 5 or 6 boats then. If you look at it, the Sharpie racing in the Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron has got the longest history of any club sponsoring Sharpies. That used to be true. I don't know whether it is now.
So it would have been predating the West Australians and the South Australians, you think?
I wouldn't swear to that, but I think it was.
Quite a possibility. So when you got involved, just club racing down here and so on, there was already a reasonable fleet sailing back in the late 40s?
Yeah, we were racing on the river, so I learned my basic skills on the river. And I was very happy with that, but then of course the club decided they wanted bayside premises, and finally the sailing moved down to here.
When would that have been?
Must have been in the lightweight Sharpie, so it had to be around 1960. 1961.
Oh, I guess the design of the clubhouse with the wavy roof, that sort of thing wouldn't have happened till around about that period.
Well, the clubhouse went up pretty early.
Yeah.
That was controlled by Greg Cabell, who was Commodore at the time.
Okay.
And Greg had a Sharpie for quite some time, a heavyweight Sharpie.
And did they have a fleet out at Sandgate as well at that time?
Yes, of course we used to go down to Sandgate and also Humpy Bomb, and we raced there on Sundays. A very keen father who towed us down.
That's great. What you need. You seem to have won so many of the championships. Where was your main opposition from at that time? Was it the place getters from here as well, or some of the interstaters coming to the fore at that time?
In the lightweight Sharpies, here we had Barry Russell. He was a good operator, and as a matter of fact, 2 years running, he went away as number 1 rep. I was number 2, but on both occasions we finished up on top. And poor old Barry's now dead. Well, he wasn't that old though, that's the whole thing. It's like my Dragon crew, for the Olympics. They both did.
It's pretty sad.
Very sad.
What involvement did you have with the association running things in state or nationally? Did you have any sort of official posts there?
I was the president of the Sharpies in both heavy and lightweights. I'm now a light member of the Queensland and the Australian lightweight Sharpies.
You would have run a national series up here at some time while you were president there?
Yes, there was one in the lightweights at Sandgate, and by the time that we got to the stage of the first heat, I was absolutely worn out. I wasn't worth 2 bob. That's when George from Victoria, George White, and he won it up here. I just had so much on the plate that I couldn't sort of get into the groove. Come the last heat, we won that quite easily.
Okay. Finally got your act together. Oh, that's good.
Yes.
That would have been endearing too?
Yes.
Yep. For the benefit of us newcomers, I suppose. You said you learnt your sailing on the river, so that would have given you a terrific opportunity to observe tides and winds and tactics. What about boat tuning and stuff? Did you have any insights as to how you managed to get your boat so quick on a regular basis? You obviously put a lot of preparation into your boats.
Never stop working on it. Never stop working on the boat. And you try one thing at a time. You try and improve the boat. You would never do things at the one time because you wouldn't know whether they were pluses or minuses. I didn't mind putting an idea into action and it didn't work. At least I knew that was not the way to go. You go the other way.
Good advice, yeah. What about coaching and stuff? Obviously in the early days I don't think the coaches existed in sailing, did they?
I never had a coach.
No.
Never. I read a lot of books, on sailing books.
Manfred Curry was one of the early ones I read,
He was my Bible.
Yeah, that was my Bible for a long time too. So.
Yeah, very good.
In later days you did help coach other classes?
Yeah, I became coach of the Australian Olympic team the year we went to Moscow. I went to Tallinn where the yachting was held in the pre-Olympics. But come the Olympic Games, some Prime Minister we had pulled us out of it. I didn't think very nicely of him. Never, still don't. Anyway, I finished up. I had bought a powerboat then. I got a crew together in a hurry, some of my old crew, like John Ferguson, and took her up to the reef. So it wasn't wasted.
That's what I was going to ask. As far as boat speed goes, lightweight Sharpies are a bit different now with the different sorts of rigs and the bigger spinnaker and that sort of thing, but personally I'm having a bit of trouble matching sails with masts and that sort of thing just to get up to the front row of boat speed capability. Play around with spreaders and things, but the masts or the sails I've got don't seem to be working properly with the new mast I've got.
Two major sails. There's 2 ways of doing it. One, you obviously go to the guy who's winning, who's producing fast sails, and you get a good report with him. The other way would be to really know the sailmaker. I was lucky and for most of the time I had Jack Hamilton. He was in my team.
Yeah.
We used to correspond. He was in Sydney then. He used to make some very good sails, and he was prepared to experiment a bit, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah, so it's trial and error, I guess, to some degree, but knowing what you want in the first place and having a good relationship.
Do you measure the curve in your mast under pressure?
I haven't done with this new mast yet. I must do that and get that sorted out.
You should get that to the sailmaker, and he should be able to design his curves to suit that.
Yeah.
We used to lay the boat on its side, put a wire down for the leech, no sails, and pull the main sheet on to what you thought was about right, and then measure the curve in the mast.
Yeah.
Run a string line down and measure everything. If you're doing that, you should be able to turn out a pretty good mainsail. It's not hard to do, it just takes a little bit of time. That's
And his son Bill's had some involvement with Sharpies, but at the moment he's heavily involved with the 505 worlds and stuff.
You know, when I joined them, we didn't have any 505s in Brisbane. Went to Adelaide. First series I sailed in was the Australian Championship. We won.
Yeah, amazing. It just goes to show Sharpie sailors at that time particularly were as good as any in the world, that's for sure. Yeah, excellent. All right, John, I think that's probably enough for today, so appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Well, if you have any queries, just ring up. There's no troubles.